For this project, we're gonna do a pretty massive wall hanging. So I have been low-key working on a renovation for my master bedroom. It's going to come out on the channel, but it's gonna take a while because we're doing a lot of things. Like we had to get our ceilings fixed, we're redoing the floors. You're gonna see it eventually, but it's one of those projects that's probably gonna take us longer to do than most of our DIYs. I have a lot of large blank walls in my room, and I was watching the Dishonest Truth DIY. They have a great YouTube channel, and they did a project like this. Their project was the inspo for my project. So you want to grab a board. I actually grabbed one that was in my garage. It's a 1x2 board, and my board was 50 inches long. Next, I stained the board with a color called Golden Oak. It's been kind of my favorite color lately. So I'm just gonna wipe it on and then wipe off any excess with a paper towel. You could use any stain color for this. Next, I'm going to use one of my favorite little macrame yarns. I will link it down below for you as well. So I needed to get 200 pieces of macrame yarn. So what I did was I took some kind of heavy duty plastic. This is the plastic that are in those IKEA frames. And I just started to wrap the macrame around the plastic. You could do this with anything that you have on hand. It ended up, my length was about 31 inches, but really this is personal preference. So I wrapped it around about 50 times. Then I cut one side off and then I cut the other side off. So I took all the strings and made a little bundle. So I ended up having 4 bundles of 50 macrame strings. So I'm going to take one of my groupings and bend it in half. Then I'm going to take some painter's tape and I'm going to tape off about, I would say, a little bit more than halfway up, maybe 3/4 of the way up. And this is going to help us when we go to paint. Now this is where you can really customize this project depending on the colors you like. So I went to Sherwin-Williams wanting to find a light blue and a dark blue color. I ended up grabbing Blustery Sky and Rainstorm, and I picked these up in samples. Whenever you buy samples, they're really inexpensive and it's the way to go. So next you're going to get a dish or a disposable little container, and I'm going to fill it up about halfway with water. Then I'm going to dump in my lighter paint color and I'm going to mix that around. Then I'm going to take each of my bundles and dip them into where the tape line is at. That way I have a consistent tape line for all of my dyeing. And this is a great way to dye your fabric. Now you want to make sure you get all of the pieces down in there. Let it set for a little bit, make sure they're coated, kind of pull it up, see if they're coated. If not, put it back in there for more. And then you're going to take it, pull it out, let all the excess drip off, and then you can put it over to dry. I had the same plastic that I used to wrap the cord and just let it sit out on that. Now I let this dry 24 hours before I came in with my darker color. So I did the same technique by adding in water with my dark color. Now when I did this, I realized that there wasn't a huge variation in the color, like it was very subtle. So what I decided to do was add in some black paint to make it a little bit darker. So I mixed the paint around. Now I did run into a problem whenever I started to dip. I realized that some of the black paint had settled to the bottom. And so if the pieces were touching the bottom, it was getting covered with black. So I had to be a little bit careful. So I suggest mixing it up better than I did. When I dip into the darker color, I'm not going to put it in all the way. I'm just going to put a little bit of the bottom portion in. Now, I wish that I would have gotten a really dark color. So that may be something, or my blue that I used at the beginning, maybe if it was a little bit lighter. So make sure your colors are really contrasting. So do that for all 4 of your colors and let them sit out to dry again. Again, I let this sit out a day. Then after a day, I removed the tape and they still needed some time to sit out. So I actually laid them out flat and gave them, probably at least a couple more hours to dry out before I did anything with them. Now, if you've seen any of my projects before where I've done this similar technique, I just laid out my board and then I'm going to take all of the strips and lay them out on the back of my board. Now, this does not have to be perfect. They do not have to be evenly spaced. Just do the best you can, kind of eyeball it. Then you're going to come through and hot glue every single piece down. Once you've hot glued, now you have to come in, and if you have any pieces that are on the top, you want to cut those off. Now, to hang this on the wall, I thought I'd be able to get away with command strips, and that's what I initially tried, but since it was a bigger piece, I ended up having to get hooks. So I recommend using like maybe some little picture hanger hooks on the back for this. But all you have to do is hang it up on your wall, then come in and cut off any excess at the bottom, like any pieces that kind of look weird. Mine actually did pretty well. I didn't have a ton of pieces that had any issues. But here is a look at how this wall hanging turned out. I can't wait to move it to my master bedroom and share that with you guys eventually. Hey guys, I'm Liz and you're watching my second DIY channel where I post daily DIY videos. You may be familiar with my main channel, Liz Fenwick DIY, but I'm glad that you found me over here on my second channel. Make sure that you're subscribed so you just get notified every day when I post our daily DIY video.